So, I just got back from my first trip to Estonia, and it was really good. First of all, my name is Aleks Meiusi. I'm Estonian. Well, I'm half Estonian, but anyways, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what I learned. And to do that, I'm going to have to go back to the beginning of the trip. So, as always, enjoy.
After 2 plane rides, we came into Estonia on the ferry from Finland, and it was amazing seeing the country's shoreline creeping up on us for the first time. We finally got to Estonia, and after meeting up with our group and having a few days of activities, it was time for the song festival. So, it was the day of the song festival, and you gotta understand, I was really tired from the days prior to this one. All of the choirs were lined up, getting ready for the parade, and at that moment, I wasn't really feeling too enthusiastic about the day ahead of me. But that all changed when the parade actually started. I started to remember why this day in particular was so special to Estonians. I kept walking, and now with more energy, and I was really excited. Everyone was cheering, the whole line of choirs were doing the wave and playing instruments, and everybody was greeted with humble wishes of long lives from the crowd who were watching the parade and cheering along with us. Everyone was excited. A day that I had learned about through many documentaries in Estonian school and through many stories passed down by family members, I was finally living that day. And I was realizing just how important this day was to Estonians, our culture, and our history. I remember my dad told me that there were going to be a lot of people, and I thought that I knew what he was talking about at first. But when I got up onto the stage, I realized that there were a lot of people, more people than I could have ever imagined. When I listened to some of the singing, I felt like I had headphones on. But it was real. All of those people, 90,000 at some times, were all singing the same song, harmonizing and staying on the same beat. It sounded amazing. Though I wasn't listening to a pre-recorded tape, I was listening to something 150 years in the making. I was participating in an almost 150-year-long tradition. A tradition that defined Estonia as a country, along with the story of our independence and our culture. Some of the songs that you hear define us, and they're historic timepieces that hold a lot of value to Estonians. It was a pretty important day, and I was really happy to be a part of it. We got on a train and headed over to Kiviõli to meet up with our first, second, third, and fourth, even fifth cousins. This was the first time I had ever met most of them, and we were all really excited to see each other. They were really welcoming as soon as we got there. I got to experience a whole different lifestyle, and while we were there, our days were pretty packed. We visited my cousin's farm. We got to see all of his livestock, his crops, and even a little market that he ran, which was filled with the fresh foods that he harvested straight from his farm. We got to see old historical landmarks. We went ziplining off a huge hill of ash that was left there from oil shale. When we went back home, we even got to see a little talent show that was thrown just for us by our fourth cousins. Although, besides meeting the extended family, one of the main reasons that we were in Kiviõli was to go to the house where my grandmother was born. Now, this is the original house, but not the original place in which the house was first built. The house was actually picked up and moved to another location after my grandmother fled from Estonia because of the war and got to Canada. Here we are at that location. It's a historical landmark now, and it was known to have gold buried deep into the ground. My grandmother always told me how she and her brother used to go hunting for the gold behind the house all the time. This was the room that she was born in. Her story of coming to Canada was a pretty common one among Estonian immigrants. One day during the war, Soviet soldiers came to her door and told she and her family to leave. So, they had no choice but to hike through the forest for 8 days. They then got on a boat, which took them to Sweden, where my grandmother met my grandfather, and then they finally came to Canada. While we were having dinner, we talked about the family history and how everyone ended up where they are right now. And I found it amazing how after all these years, and even through all these hardships of the past, we were still having dinner in that house on that day. There were 5 different generations of family, all in that one house at the same time. All of the adults, the kids, the babies, and even the dogs. We even pulled out the family tree, just to fully grasp how many branches of relatives there were, all in this special little house at the same time. It really shows how far we've come since the days of the war, and how much we've fought through the hard times to still have a prospering community to this day. From one day having Soviet officers refuse to speak to citizens, having giant rocks block the roadways, and having a wall displaying the sign of Soviet power, to having Estonian police officers righteously defending the community, clear streets free of any danger, and that same wall displaying the sign of Estonian independence. On this trip, I learned a lot. I met a lot of family, I hung out with a lot of friends, I experienced an amazing festival, and I got to see a whole different lifestyle and culture. What I really learned by experiencing all of these things was about Estonian heritage, the story of Estonia itself, and how we fought through the hard times and came out successful. Still, throughout all of the hardships, we as Estonians have kept our traditions and our culture. And I think that's really what makes Estonia special. It's an amazing country with a truly amazing story. And I would say that it made for a pretty amazing experience.